So you've decided it's time to sell your business and you're wondering, what's the first step? What comes after that? And what does the whole process look like? I love mergers and acquisitions. I know, I'm a geek. I've been through the process 8 times, not as an advisor, but as a business buyer and a business seller. So I bring a slightly unusual perspective. I know what it's like to be a founder selling your business for the first time. It's an emotional roller coaster. But I also know what it's like to be a buyer, and I know what the buyer will be looking at in your business as you go through that process. So I'm going to walk you through what's actually involved in selling your business in 10 steps. And I'm going to share 2 tips that almost every first-time seller misses. And these tips could save you a huge amount of money. I'm assuming you've already prepared your business for sale, but if you haven't, then I've done loads of videos on that, so please do check them out. One of the biggest mistakes so many founders make is choosing the wrong broker, and they end up not selling their business and wasting loads of time and loads of money. Once you've found your broker or advisor, you will sign a contract with them. Founder, read that contract extremely carefully. You need to look for this clause in particular. If the broker doesn't sell the business, do they still get their commission? If your business sells, what happens often is somebody appoints a broker, the broker doesn't do a good job, the founder finds their own buyer, sells the business, only to find that they still owe the broker commission because they signed a contract that said the broker gets their commission if this business sells within 2 years of the contract. Make sure you don't have that clause in your contract. It's not fair. Once the contract is signed, the next step is to educate the broker. You need to teach them everything about your business, your financials, your strategy, your USPs, where your leads come from, and what the big opportunity is for your business. You'll also sit down with them and brainstorm a long list of potential buyers. This will look at which competitors, which investors, or which companies in similar or related industries might be interested in your business. And you'll think quite carefully about why they might be interested. Does your business offer them an opportunity for growth? Does it offer them a strategic advantage, in which case they'll be more likely to pay more? So you and your broker will create a long list of potential acquirers. Once you've done that, your broker will work with you to produce what's known as an information memorandum. This is a document that is confidential and it tells the story of your business in a very positive light, as long as that is truthful. So the IM is designed to convey what your business does, who it does it for, how much it makes, how much it's expected to make, where the new business is coming from, who does the work, and why you're leaving or why you're looking at selling it. So this gives any potential acquirer a really decent introduction to your business. Off the back of the information memorandum, your broker will create a teaser, usually a 1-page anonymized version of your information memorandum. So it might say something like, this is a hospitality business in this general location, turning over this much, making this much profit, and the owner is looking to exit because they want to retire. That teaser can be sent out to anyone because it doesn't contain any confidential information. And what your broker will do is they will start sending that teaser out to potential buyers. If a potential acquirer is interested in your business, they have to sign a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality contract before they get access to your information memorandum. This is obviously to prevent confidential information from getting out there into the market. You don't want your customers or your staff or your competitors to know that there's going to be some disruption in your business. So it's very important that that IM goes to nobody until they've signed that non-disclosure agreement. Then you're going to start meeting potential buyers. These first meetings are really important. You want to position your company in the most positive light, and you want to start to build a relationship with the acquirers. It's also a chemistry meeting. Do your values align? Can you see these acquirers working with your team and servicing your customers? Can you see opportunity after the deal, or do they make you feel nervous? Hopefully by this stage, you'll have some interested buyers, and ideally you want more than one. What you'd like to do is get 3, 4, 5, or 6 offers so that you can use the offers to negotiate the best deal with the acquirer that you want to sell to. So this is where you ideally want to get to. Once the offers come in and your negotiations are complete and you've selected the company that you want to sell to, you'll then sign another document called the Heads of Terms or the Letter of Intent. And this basically outlines the structure of the deal. Who's staying, who's going, how much is the company worth, how is that value going to be transferred, etc., etc. You iron out all those details before they go to the lawyers. Then you appoint your lawyers and you hand the deal over to them. Make sure you get a good corporate lawyer, somebody who regularly does M&A transactions and someone who is quick, responsive and practical. Now remember I said a lot of sellers miss two very important things during the process. This is the first one. Once the deal has gone to lawyers, due diligence will start and there's a lot of quite boring admin that has to take place between this point and completing the sale. You need to manage your relationship with the buyer throughout this process. So that means keeping in touch, building that strong relationship, keeping them interested, because this process can take 3, 6, 12 months. And you need to make sure that the buyer doesn't decide it's not worth it or lose interest in that time period. So what you should be doing is having regular meetings with them and sharing everything, the highs and the lows. Win a new client? Great, get the buyer excited. Lose a client or lose a key member of staff? Tell them about it and tell them what the plan is to fix it so that the buyer doesn't start to get uneasy, because you've got a long period of time between signing the Heads of Terms and signing the final contract, and no business continues to run just like that all the time. Businesses are like this, and you've got to manage the buyer's emotions through the process so that they're not like that. This is also where you need to start talking about the integration plan. What is the buyer going to do with your business the day after the sale? This is so important, and don't wait until you've signed on the dotted line to find out that there isn't a plan. Make sure you understand what's going to be required of you and what conversations you need to have now with your staff or your suppliers or your customers to make sure that it's not chaos the day after the deal. If the buyer doesn't have a good integration plan, insist on one. Make sure they produce one. And if they won't, do it together, because you just don't want to get to the other side of a deal without a plan. The lawyers are going to now be crafting the SPA, the Sale and Purchase Agreement, or the Share Purchase Agreement. This is basically the document, the legally binding contract that outlines that this company has bought this company and this money has been transferred and this company is now owned by these people. There are going to be so many questions as you go through this process because you have to make sure that everything is honest, true, and accurate. But you also need to make sure that you understand what you're signing, because the lawyers can give you as much advice as you need, but you are the person signing that document. So there are going to be so many words you don't understand, but sit down, read through the document, and ask your lawyer to clarify every single point that you don't understand. It's really important. The buyer will be conducting due diligence on you and the business, but don't forget that you have every right to conduct due diligence on the buyer as well. Please do it. Just make sure that they are who they say they are. If the buyer has convinced you to sell to them because they're growing every year by 50%, confirm it. Let them show you their historical financial records and their forecasts. If the buyer has promised you that they're going to help you launch into a new market with their amazing supplier relationships, ask them to explain and outline what those actually are, and make sure that the buyer has been honest with you throughout the process. Most buyers are honest, but do your due diligence anyway. And here's the second tip that could save you from making an enormous mistake. If something comes up in due diligence that makes you uneasy, that makes you think, I'm not so sure about this deal anymore, the best person to ask for advice is going to be your lawyer. It's not going to be your broker. And here's why. It's just a simple rule of economics. Your broker gets their commission when the deal closes. If you are that close to closing the deal, your broker is highly motivated to get you over that last inch, which means they're not going to necessarily be thinking within your interests. It's just human nature. So ask your broker, get their input, but really your lawyer is representing your interests and they have a legal requirement to do so, and they are going to be much more impartial when it comes to helping you decide whether to go ahead with a deal. It's very common for either side to pull out of a deal at the last minute, and don't feel that just because you've got almost to the end that you have to complete the deal. This is your business. You've built it. This is your legacy. This is the value you've created. This is your decision. Once all the paperwork is agreed, everyone signs on the dotted line, the money changes hands, the shares change hands, and the deal is done. You're done, right? Time to celebrate. Well, that's what I thought. But actually, the day after the deal was one of the most surprising, emotional experiences of my life. I've done a whole video on what happened the day after the deal, and you have to watch it because you will not be prepared for how you feel once you sign that paper.